Welcome to Bajan Lifestyles, where we give you the best of Barbados and all of its hidden treasures. It's the month of independence for Barbados, so our videos will be centered around the history, culture, and food.
Today we are at the Interactive Exchange Center to learn more about the currencies of Barbados. Let's go! Ow!
Hello and welcome to the Exchange Interactive Center, the newest museum in the heart of Bridgetown, Barbados. At the Exchange Interactive Center, we feature two gallery floors. The first floor shares the history of Bridgetown and trade in Barbados, the history of currency on the island and across the world, and the development and contributions of Central Bank of Barbados. The third floor is dedicated to the history of our 18th century building. Our galleries are fully interactive. We have audio, touch screens, and you can spend the whole day here if you're interested in doing so. We start here by looking at what would be the general history of how Bridgetown came to be. Bridgetown was actually established in 1628, 1 year after Barbados was settled by the British in 1627. They started with goods such as ginger, tobacco, and cotton, but found that those goods didn't quite take hold in Barbadian soil. So they shift to sugarcane. Sugarcane produced sugar, rum, and molasses, and that kept Barbados afloat for most of the 16 to 1800s. When you visit, you can actually have a smell of our rum right here in our hogshead barrel. And a hogshead barrel carries approximately 63 US gallons of liquid, and that's how they would export sugar, rum, and molasses from the island, also known as the white gold of that time. If you follow me this way, we're going to head on into black and white businesses of Barbados and Bridgetown. Originally, almost every plantation had their own warehouse from which they would export. But in the 1800s, quite a bit of competition took hold between the US markets and British markets in themselves, and our sugar started to decline. As a result, the Barbados Shipping and Trade Company was established, and it was established with merchant houses such as the DaCostas, SP Mewson, Manning, and Gardiner Austin. And they consolidated their products and created a shipping company that would not just export sugar, rum, and molasses, but other goods as well from the island and into Barbados. Women held a very strong role within the 1800s, not just on the plantations, but black women as well. Persons such as Rachel Pringle. Rachel Pringle is probably the most famous hotelier of Barbados. She became infamous because she was the only one who dared to give Prince Henry a bill of £700 after he had too much of a merry night at her establishment. Many other hoteliers existed, such as Betsy Aline and Caroline Lee. Now, you might hear this term and find this very strange. Why we might name pickles and potatoes women hotel owners of Bridgetown as the name of this exhibition. However, pickles and potatoes refers to those special services that could only be found at these hotels. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but I'll leave that up to your imagination. So this is what Rachel is believed to have looked like, but really this would have been Rachel in her 38 years prime. Basically, her history is documented in this image. Rachel Pringle was born of mixed race. Her father was a white planter on the island, which is this gentleman right here, also known to be very abusive towards his daughter, both physically and sexually. It was her first husband who fell in love with Rachel and decided to purchase her and marry her from her father. It was also the first husband that gave her a hotel which she chose to operate. So that's where her story and origins begin. She became the most famous hotelier, not only for her infamous stint with Prince Henry, but also because she was willing to employ other young black women in her hotel and business. Many of them became financially independent through her. Other prominent black businessmen of the 1800s would have been London Bourne. London Bourne was the most wealthy black businessman in Bridgetown and in Barbados. He owned the London Bourne's Exchange building, which was located just outside where the boatyard is today. It's been converted into a living tower right now, known as London Towers. But the Exchange building that he owned was actually the first home of the Bridgetown Club. And the Bridgetown Gentlemen's Club was only for white planters of the time. So even though he owned the building, he wasn't able to go inside. But you don't need to go inside to collect rent. And as they rented his building, he was still able to make quite a tidy profit from their services. Let me show you one of my favorite coins. In Barbados, there are proof and commemorative coins for all of our bills that are circulated. One of my favorite, which is uncirculated, is the 1975 gold $100 coin, which was produced to commemorate the 350th anniversary of Barbados's settlement. So when you visit the Exchange Interactive Center, the one coin you definitely need to see would have to be the Barbados Penny from 1788. It was the very first coin minted for Barbados. On the obverse side, you will find a pineapple, which in some cultures, pineapples were said to be the most expensive thing to have. To have pineapples on your table, you might be considered extremely wealthy. And if you don't believe me, consider that next time you go traveling around and you look at the design on people's gates, and you might find a pineapple there. Another thing that you might find interesting, you might be most familiar with the pieces of 8 from the Pirates of the Caribbean series, where the pieces of 8 were indicators of the leaders of the pirates.
Present now your pieces of 8, my fellow captains.
Those aren't pieces of 8. They're just pieces of junk.
Aye, the original plan was to use 9 pieces of 8 to bind Calypso, but when the first court met, the brethren were to a 1. Skint broke.
So change the name.
What? To 9 pieces of whatever we happened to have in our pockets at the time. Oh yes, that sounds very piratey.
But it was really a fancy name for saying any piece of metal that belonged to the Spanish currency. And as such, we do have a few of them here on display at the Exchange Interactive Center. What members of the society would do when they joined the landship would be to submit a small portion of their earnings each week. At the end of the year, they would then receive a lump sum of their investment. The landship was based off the principles of the Royal Navy and operated very much like a naval ship, with a captain and members producing the engine that will move society forward. Over here deals with the history of the Central Bank of Barbados. The Central Bank of Barbados building was named after the Right Honorable John Michael Geoffrey Manningham Adams, therefore named Tom Adams Financial Center, as that was the name he chose to go by. The building, which was designed by Barbadian and Trinidadian architect Mervyn Awan, actually sits over 50 meters high and is the tallest building in Barbados. The Exchange Interactive Center became into existence under the support of the Central Bank of Barbados. The Central Bank of Barbados was established on May 2nd, 1975. Before we had our own currency, Barbados was part of the British Currency Board, which was established in 1950, and eventually was under the Eastern Caribbean Currency Board, which was established in 1965. That is the first floor of the Exchange Interactive Center. Join me and we'll head on up to our third floor. The third floor of the Exchange Interactive Center is dedicated to the history of our building. Where I stand today is our Freemasonry exhibition. Here you will learn the history of Freemasonry in Barbados from when it came to the island in 1743 to how it's operating today. You'll also learn a little bit about early education as you visit our educational classroom. Our classroom exhibit is also interactive, where you will be able to participate in an actual class exercise from the 1800s and learn a little bit about the Harrison Free School, which was started right here at the Exchange Interactive Center.
So this is Robert Haynes.
Yes, it is. Robert Haynes was the District Grandmaster of Barbados in 1904.
Wonderful. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this video because I surely have. It was very educational. Thanks, Faber.
Thank you for visiting.
Thank you as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.
We hope you liked this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Bajan content.